Day, October 15, 2020, tax day number 3, 2020. It is episode number 102 of the 39.6 show. This is the 39.6 Facebook Live and YouTube Live finance show. The show that teaches high earners like yourselves how to make your money work for you so you don't have to work for your money. We talk general investing, taxes, real estate, syndications, Airbnb, paying for college, childcare, and even the car you drive. Hello, Vina, and 4 other people. If you're out there, please give a shout out. Tell me where you're chiming in from. Feel free to ask some questions in the chat box. I'll try to answer them today. Today, we are going to do a back to basics episode. We've added about 200 new members just since Friday. That is all thanks to PIMDCon, almost 99% of it. So thank you, Peter, for inviting me. And thank you, everybody who's joined. All right. So we're going to do a back to basics lecture, the 20% rule. Okay. And wow, we actually have Vamseen here too. So today is tax day number 3. So April 15th, unless it was on like a Sunday or a weekend, what is, regular tax day. But then they delayed it to July 15th. So that was awesome. I got to delay for 3 months, sending in $40,000 that I didn't want to pay without penalty. Then we still, filed for our extension. But then that extension came up pretty quickly after the July extension. So then there's only 3 months. This is the closest we've ever come because we got our cost seg finally back like a week ago. But then I just got the final draft yesterday night. And then we had multiple then revisions of that. But it's filed. So thank God we have like 6 months until the next tax deadline. And every year we're like, oh, we're going to do better. But the problem is every year the taxes gets more complicated. So yeah, like we're going to do better for the stuff that like we knew about, and we're not going to do better for the stuff we didn't know about. And so every year it's like the same thing every time. Okay, but we have a little bit. I mean, the end of the year is in 2 months. Like we could get all of our taxes done like basically January 1, with the exception of all the K1s. But okay, anyway. Back to basics, 20% rule. This is very, 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 very easy. Now, if you learn nothing in finance at all ever, this is like the only thing you need to know is that you have to save at least 20% of your money. Okay, like if you're a doctor, high income person, it took you years to get to where you are, and now you're making that money. Once you start making that money, you have to save 20%. Like every paycheck. Now, does it have to be every paycheck? No, you could front load it. But 20% of your income, at least per year, has to be invested for your retirement. And it doesn't have to be in a retirement account. It doesn't have to be in anything particular, but it has to be invested for that purpose. Okay. Now, a lot of people in regular world will say 15%. And yeah, that's fine if you're starting to invest when you're like 20 years old, 25 years old. But if you're not starting until you're like 35, your time horizon is a lot lower. So you have to have a higher savings rate. That's your best defense to make sure that you're safe in retirement is your savings rate. So 20%. Okay. And the savings rate is inversely related to how long it will take you to become financially independent off of your investments. So using this example with a 6% rate of return and assuming that you can safely withdraw 4% of the balance per year at the end, it'll take 33 years for you to get to an account big enough to support yourself for another approximately 30 plus years. Okay, so this is just a rule of thumb. So many people will argue about why this is not perfect. Yeah, it's not perfect. It's a rule of thumb. But 20%, okay? So start there. Everything you do beyond just saving 20% of your money in a regular taxable brokerage account is optimization. Okay, so you do not need any retirement accounts. You do not need 401k, 403b, 457b, pension plan, IRAs. You don't need any of those. You just need to open up one bank account at Fidelity, Vanguard, E-Trade, whatever. And you can just invest it in a simple balanced fund, like a 60-40 fund, like Vanguard's Life Strategy Moderate Growth Fund or Vanguard's Balanced Fund. These are like 60-40 funds, 60% stocks, 40% bonds. You can literally just hold on to one account your whole entire life and just invest in that one thing. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that. So, for example, I'm going to show you, this is the Vanguard Life Strategy Moderate Growth Fund, 60% stocks and 40% bonds. You can have that forever. Just invest 20% of every single paycheck into that. Okay? So you get a paycheck, you deposit it, you take 20% of it and transfer it to Vanguard and invest it in this. If you just do that, like this is like 2 steps, and you just do this every month until you retire. Okay, 20% of every paycheck. That would be like post-tax dollars. Okay, so a lot of people argue, is this gross income or net income? Well, the way I think about it is, if it's post-tax money, you could take 20% of your post-tax income, like your paycheck. If it's pre-tax money, then 20% of your pre-tax income, I think, is an appropriate way to think about it. Now, it's hard to have all of it be pre-tax or post-tax, so then it gets a little bit more complicated. But just to keep things simple first, 20% of every paycheck of net income on your paycheck, put 20% of it into a taxable brokerage account and invest it. So many people will not even do this one step, 20%. Okay? Because of this gigantic problem, and that is retirement accounts. Retirement accounts drive me insane. And what makes me more insane is this thing that everybody talks about, backdoor Roth. Okay? Backdoor Roth, this is like for bonus points. This is not like a means to an end. Okay? So that's the cherry on top. It's not the ice cream sundae. Okay? You're not going to get there with just the cherry. $6,000 a year is not going to get the job done unless $6,000 a year equals 20% of your income. At one point in my life, it was 20% of my income, but that was a long time ago. And $6,000 was a lot more back then. That was like 20 years ago. Okay. But yeah, my first job was $16,000 and my second job was about $32,000. But that was including, I also had free room and board as a teacher. So don't focus on your retirement accounts. Do not focus on your IRA. Oh my gosh, someone's going to post, Victor said, don't worry about retirement accounts. This is absolute blasphemy. No, that's not what I said. I said retirement accounts are not the means to the end. Your first goal is to hit 20% each year. So just do that in a taxable brokerage account. If you do not put it in a taxable brokerage account, that is fine. You can put it in other places that may be more optimal. You could invest 20% into a real estate property. Okay, that's actually in a lot of ways better than a retirement account because it's so super tax efficient. And you could put 20% per year and invest it into real estate assets. And the job of that would be to grow your wealth and passive income so that you can live off of that. You probably don't need to invest 20% per year for 33 years if you're investing in good real estate. Okay, but everything you do that is beyond just doing 20% into a brokerage account is only for optimization purposes. So let's pretend your job has retirement accounts. Not all of them have them, but let's pretend yours does and you make $100,000 a year. Well, a 401k maxes out at $19,500 per year for 2020. So that's almost 20%. You could just fill up your 401k with pre-tax dollars because you made $100,000 pre-tax and you throw in $19,500. Now, what about the match? Well, if they're giving you like 4% of a match, That's fantastic. So then you'd say, well, I have 19,500 plus like 4,000. That's $23,500. That would be like a 23.5% savings rate, almost. If you get money from your job, that is not just added on to your savings. It's also added to your denominator. Okay, so if you get $4,000 as a match from your job and you make $100,000, well, you actually make $104,000. Okay, you need to add these two pieces together. So really what you're doing, you're investing 23,500 out of a total of 104. Okay, so yeah, then you're going to be still a little bit over 20%. Another caveat, if that money from your employer is not vested, okay, then don't count that in your savings rate because it's not yours until it's vested. And you might leave your job. What does vested mean? Well, a lot of companies have like a 5-year vesting schedule where it could be cliff vesting, where if you leave any time within the first 60 months of being there, all of those employer contributions, they will take it back from you. They will claw it right back. It's not yours. Gone. Others will have a graduated vesting schedule where they might put in the match every year, like $4,000. And the first year, after you hit your 1-year anniversary, you vested 20% of it, like $800. So if you leave 1 year and a day later, it's $800. You get to keep the other $3,200, go back to them. But then the next year, you'll have a total vesting of 40% of your balance. Then 60, then 80, then 100. I just hit the 5-year anniversary at my job, September 1. And I just realized literally as I'm talking to you that my wife hit her 5-year anniversary on October 3rd, and we forgot about that. So anyway, now I'm completely vested in my 401k, so that's exciting because there's a bunch of money in my 401k, and I hadn't been completely vested, but now I am. Okay, so your pre-tax accounts from your job are fantastic, but what if you make $285,000? Okay, that's the limit the IRS will allow your company to match you on. Well, if you're only getting a 4% match on $285,000, okay, then now it's like $11,000. Okay, but the problem is you're still only getting $19,500. Okay, so $19,500 out of $285,000, that's like 8% or so. Okay, so that's only an 8% savings rate, but then they're going to give you that 4% match. You're going to be around 11%. Okay, so this is the big problem with retirement accounts. So many people think I'm filling up my 401k. I am fine. Okay, no, you are not fine. Did you hit 20%? I didn't know I hit 20%. I just was told I have to max out my retirement accounts. That is a fantastic rule of thumb for people who make under $100,000 a year. That is not you. Okay, so more money, more problems. Now, you've put up $19,500 and they're giving like a 4% safe harbor match. So you're only saving like 11%. So 11% is not going to get the job done. You're going to have to work like 45 years or so in order to be able to retire. And by that time, you might just not be alive anymore. Okay, so you might just work till you die. So how do you get yourself up to the 20%? Well, let's say you work at a university. My wife works for a state university. They have a 403B plan called the Optional Retirement Program. So complicated. That's like episode 3 or something if you want to go back to that. One of my first 10 episodes, I'm pretty sure. But you put 6.65% of your income. They will put 8.5% of your income as a match. So that ends up being like 15%. But remember, the denominator is bigger because that match counts as income. So let's say it's 13%. Okay, that's good. But then they also allow you to add more money into the 403B through a secondary account, and they have a 457B as well. Okay, so if you have $285,000 in income, okay, you can get a total of $57,000 across all of the 403Bs between your own contribution to the 457B, your own your own contribution to the extra 403B, your own contribution to the regular 403B, the employer contribution to the 403B, that ends up being $57,000. Then you add onto an additional $19,500 into the 457B, and that gets us to, I did it twice, $57,000 plus $19,500. Okay, that's $76,500. That's a lot, but is it 20%? Okay, so if you have 285 divided by 285,000, there you go. That's a 27% savings rate. Okay, so what that means, the ORP gets you like 15%. So if you do nothing and you just are enrolled in the ORP and you have no control whether that money goes in or not, it is going to happen automatically. Then you're going to save about 15% of your income, maybe 14%. That's not horrific, right? If you work long enough or your returns are good enough, you will probably be fine. Okay, but to be safe, you want to really be at 20%. So they have the other accounts there to help you out, the 457B, and a little bit more onto the other 403B, and you can get yourself up to 27%. That's of an income of $285,000. But a lot of doctors make a lot more than this. If you're making $400,000 at this same hospital, the problem is those retirement account matches cut off when you hit to $285,000. That's across the board. That's a federal rule. So filling up just your retirement accounts might not be enough. Okay, because remember we have 57,000 plus 19,500. That is 76,500. But now I'm going to divide it by $400,000. Okay, divide by 400,000, and that gets us to 19%. Okay, so you're just almost at 20% at 400. If you're at $500,000, it'll be even lower. Okay, so you have to be careful, and that's at a university where they have a lot of retirement accounts. A lot of private groups, you're stuck with just your 401k. And because they don't even have a safe harbor 401k, because they might not want to pay the employees as much match, they might not even allow you to put money into the 401k at all, or they might have to limit you well below the 19,500. Okay, that's not uncommon in very small groups because of ADP, ACP, and top-heavy testing, these cross-testing rules. Refer back to my cash balance series about that, okay? But I'm kind of rambling here, but then the first thing is put 20% into a taxable brokerage. If you're not doing that, you should be putting 20% in to pre-tax accounts if you can get 20% all the way there, okay? Or you could do like real estate. 20% in pre-tax retirement accounts from your job is the easiest way to do it because it comes out automatically, but that's only assuming there's enough space, okay? Let's pretend you don't have enough space. Let's pretend you only have $19,500 and you make $200,000. Well, then what do? You need to be investing $40,000. Okay, so $19,500 would get into your 401k, but you need to still invest another $20,500 somewhere else. Taxable brokerage account. Okay, that's always the default. Now, if you don't want to put it in there, then you could say, okay, I'm going to use an IRA. I could do the backdoor Roth IRA. Okay, fine. So instead of putting $6,000 in a taxable brokerage, you're going to move it to a Roth IRA from the backdoor. So you're going to end up with 3 accounts. If you make $200,000, you're going to put $19,500 into your 401k at your job. You're going to put $6,000 into your Roth IRA from the backdoor. That's $25,500. Then you'll put another $14,500 into a regular taxable brokerage account. That gets you to $40,000. So many people forget about this taxable brokerage account because they're not following the initial principle, that is the 20% rule. They just go blind and say, I'm just going to do my retirement accounts. But those are so heavily variable from place to place, and incomes are highly variable. Okay, I know a lot of people who only have access to a 401k. They think that just filling up this account is going to get the job done. They're like, well, for right now, I'm just going to do that. And I'm going to focus on other things. What other things? Time value of money. Like the most important thing when you're starting is to get as much in as you can while you can, assuming you're not like broke and you can't like feed yourself, right? Because you're so far behind if you're like 30 plus years old and your net worth is negative. Okay, so going to that, student loans. People will say, well, I owe $500,000 in student loans. Yeah, we still owe $500,000 in student loans. It doesn't mean that you can just put 20% to your student loans. Technically, you'll probably still be okay, but your student loans, remember, it's just like tax, right? When you're paying money to your taxes or student loans, it's going the same place, unless it's private money. You want to build your own wealth. So the way I think about it, and it doesn't have to be this way, you really should have 20% going into your own assets, your own wealth building immediately. Everything you pay to student loans would be extra. So if you want to save if you want to put half of your money to good, and fine, put 20% to investing and 30% to your student loans. Okay, or pay the minimum on your student loans and make sure you get to 20% in your investments. Now, could you just put 20% to your student loans only? Yeah, I would rather bump that up to like 25% to 30% if you're just going to put in student loans first. Okay, now this 20% rule of thumb, it only applies if your income is the same income your whole life. Okay, that you start earning that money, you put 20%, you make, let's say, $300,000 out of residency, and boom, every year you save $60,000, you will be fine. But there's a problem here. What if 4 years down the road you make partner? Or let's say you work in academia for 4 or 5 years, and you're like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm going to private practice. So then you go to private practice, make the same amount of money for 2 years, 3 years, then you become partner. So now this is 8 years out of your training, and your income goes from $300,000 to $600,000. This is actually a big problem. Okay, making more money is never a big problem, but what you do with that more money can be a gigantic problem, because if you just save 20% of this now, you are going to be behind. So if you just save 20% of that new money, $600,000, now you're saying, well, I'm investing $120,000 a year now. That's a lot more than the $60,000 I was investing those first 8 years when I was making $300,000. I should be better off. No, you are worse off now, because not only did you increase your saving from 60 to 120 and doubled it, but you have now doubled your spending. Okay. Now that's a problem, because that 20% rule assumes you have 33 years of that amount of saving in terms of dollars and that amount of time of spending. The problem is you're already 8 years into your 33-year period. So now you're only going to be saving that higher amount for 25 years. Okay. If you get a bump in income, you actually should be saving 50% of your raise. Whenever you get a raise, 50% of it should be added on to what you were saving before. Okay? So for example, $60,000 a year when you're making $300,000 a year. You do that for a decade. Then you get bumped up to $600,000. So now you have a $300,000 raise. You should be increasing your saving by $150,000 on top of that previous $60,000. You should really be going up to $210,000. Seems crazy, but your runway of time is so much shorter now at that higher income level. If you're letting your lifestyle expand to this new amount where you are spending like twice as much money, yeah, you're going to need to have a lot more money in your nest egg to support that. Okay. So the main rule is 20% of your income, has to be saved for retirement. It does not have to be in a retirement account. Taxable brokerage account is the default account. If you choose to use other ones, you should only be using them because they provide you some additional advantage. Tax-free growth, pre-tax savings, for example. Okay? But taxable brokerage accounts are awesome. They're super tax efficient. Rule 2, if you get a raise, you should save half of those raises. Okay? Almost nobody does these two things. That's why we are going to be in a lot of trouble. I mean, like less than 5% of people are actually are going to be fine financially, like down the road. If you have Social Security and your income is like middle class income and you've done Social Security your whole life through W-2 pay, you actually are in a reasonable situation because even if you didn't save a lot, Social Security will actually provide you some meaningful benefit because your lifestyle is not super inflated, right? Like Social Security could pay you like $2,000 a person. And if you're used to living off of $2,000 a month and Social Security is giving you $2,000 a month, yeah, you could probably get by, right? But if you're used to spending $15,000 a month, $2,000 is not going to do much besides groceries for you, right? The reality is, when you're past 65, you have Medicare. They'll take care of your health insurance. Social Security will probably pay for your food, okay? And then you basically have to support your shelter and other expenses with your investments. So if you paid off your house by the time you retire, so your house is paid for, then you just need to have investments enough to pay for property tax, maintenance of your home, and any other discretionary expenses. Okay, I would not expect Social Security or depend on Social Security for anything beyond groceries. Might even be able to eat out a couple times a month, but would not count on it for anything more than that. Okay, so 20% rule. Here it is, episode number 102. I can now refer to this because so many people don't even save 20% of their money. All right, and this, for clarification, is it 20% total? If my employer does 11%, can I do 9? No. Again, that 11% that your employer does is actually part of your compensation. So if you make $100,000 and they give you a match of 11%, your income is really $111,000. Okay, so that's your denominator. So your numerator would have to be 20% of 111, which would be $22,000. Okay, now if they're giving you 11% or $11,000, that's half of it. You need to be giving another $11,000. So that would be like another 11% of your income. So 11 plus 11 would end up being 20, just because the denominator gets bigger. For example, if you got a 50% match, for example, it's not like if you make $100,000 and they gave you $50,000, they're not saving 50% of your income for you. No. They're saving $50,000 out of a total of $150,000. So 33%, okay? But again, it has to be vested money. I would be very, very, very wary of counting unvested employer contributions as part of your actual savings rate. A lot of places, it'll vest in 1 year, like at UT Southwestern. If you do the ORP 1 year and 1 day, boom, it's vested. If you choose the pension, that's a 5-year vesting schedule as a cliff. If you leave before 5 years, none of it comes to you. Like, it is such a no-brainer to take the ORP if you're at UT Southwestern, because 1 year vesting versus 5-year vesting is gigantic. Like almost half of people don't stay at a job, their first job at least, for 5 years. Okay, we still have 7 people in here through all of that. That was a good time. I'm so glad we have our taxes filed. Okay. This is not legal, not accounting, not financial. Any other advice? I am not certified in any of these areas to give you any professional advice for any of these things. This is simply for entertainment to myself, maybe for you, and nothing more. Please consult with all of your own professionals before making any decisions with your money. Until tomorrow for episode number 103, Thank you for joining. Have a great night.